These defensive numbers absolutely, positively have to change this year. Next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as YouTube. And thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Couldn't have done it without you. The everydayers, you're the best. Can't thank you enough. Thank you for being here. All right, it's game week. How about that? We are finally here. I have two funny stories to tell you, if I may. I apologize for no show on Friday. I'm an idiot. Oh, by the way, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you win $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. So I went to Lincoln, Nebraska this weekend to watch Nebraska-Michigan State. Big-time college football atmosphere. Wanted to experience it. It was awesome. And I decided to use the trip as I know I've done this for 17 years, but I still get nervous before every season. So I decided, okay, I'm going to use this as a dummy trip to get all my stuff. I have brand new remote broadcast equipment this year, all sorts. I'm going to make sure I'm totally ready. And so I packed my bag up and I get all my stuff and I can't find a cord here or there. And all the things I knew would happen. I'm really proud of myself for planning ahead. And I'm walking through the airport with my wife and I say, wow, it's funny. I changed my equipment. My bag is so much lighter. This is pretty great. Wow, it's because my bag is usually just ask Ron Boone. It's like a joke. And, so we get to the hotel in Omaha and that I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to do my Ask LOJ and I go let my wife sleep. I go to the coffee shop. I get all the questions together. Great questions as always. That'll get to what we're doing this week. And I get to the hotel and I open my computer, my bag, and there's no computer. No computer. I literally planned for the first trip of the year to do this as a demo and forgot my computer. I'm an idiot. Such an idiot. It's a miracle at 55 years old that I'm still functioning. So anyway, that's why there was not a show. So here's what we're going to do this week. Your questions were great. I don't want them to just go by the wayside. So I'm going to kind of do an opening segment every day this week and then go to Ask LOJ questions. So if you have more questions, send them during the week and then we'll, except for probably on Thursday will be a game day recap of our first preseason game. And then Friday, we'll get a little bit ready for the Spurs. We don't really care about the Spurs. We'll recap the game a little bit more, but we'll do more Ask LOJ. So that's fun. Second thing, I just want to share. I'm super happy. The prep is done. Here's my one-day game sheet. Okay. And I have a little secret of why I'm going to share this with you, just for those of you on YouTube. And then here are all the player notes, 3 pages worth. And here is my color-coded little fun notes. Everything but this page is now done by AI. Got to double check it, but pretty great. Pretty incredible what AI can do. I've actually all summer long planned it so good. All right. While I was prepping, we were last in the league defensively last year. We weren't necessarily trying to win. It was not an environment for great performances. So this is not a statement that this is who these people are. But the following defensive numbers, which are brutal, need to change. Hopefully, even though our quest is not to be a 50-win team this year, or even a 40-win team, or probably even a 35-win team, some of these have to change. Okay, so the first one is we were last in the NBA as a team in defense. We were last in the NBA in half-court defense. We allowed the most transition of any team in the league by a mile. This is probably the biggest one on my books that has to change. More than anything else out there that truly has to change is the amount of transition that the team allowed last year. And the easy answer on this, by the way, and I've kind of been fighting my own, like on my own island on this one, is that it was a case of all of our turnovers. I don't think that is true. Opponents, I actually have looked at it. We were the highest rate of transition after made baskets. We were the highest rate of transition against us after missed baskets. And we were the highest rate of transition after turnovers. And we were also, opponents had the fastest pace of play against us against a make, against a miss, or against a turnover. All three. We literally were, that's pretty freaking close to Olay defense. Like literally no resistance on all three. Like the only reason someone is going to be the fastest pace of play against you in all three categories is because they get a good shot so fast that they take it. Got to change. I don't care if we win. Got to change. These are I'm sure the Jazz feel the same. I'm not like pontificating from some podium here. I'm sure that Will Hardy agrees. I'm sure Austin Ainge agrees. I'm sure Justin Zanuck agrees. I'm sure Ryan Smith agrees. If not, let me know. I'm sure they will. We allowed 22.6 of our opponent's possessions in transition. 22.6. The next closest was 20.7, Brooklyn and Portland, and the league average was 18% of possessions. So we were allowing almost 5% more possessions in transition than the half court. Okay, that's got to change. We were 23rd in defending in transition, but teams got, against Oklahoma City, who was best in the league, teams got 13 shots a game in transition. Against us, they got 21. Against Washington, they got 18. That's the next closest. So that's got to change. Those are the big picture things I would say as a team have to change. Few others. Team numbers, okay? We were 29th in the league at defending the rim last year. Teams shot 70% against the rim. This is a little bit of like Walker blocking shots. Walker needs to have an impact defensively. Okay, so like we'll keep an eye on what that is when Walker's on and off the floor. We were 30th in the NBA in defending the floater. We allowed a lot of them. We did a very good job of denying the rim, by the way. So there's a little bit of a misleading thing here. We did a super job of denying the rim. We were the third best team in the league at denying the rim. Teams only got to the rim 28% of the time, which is super. But when they got to the rim, they scored almost every time. They shot 70%. Okay. So those are the team numbers that have to improve, have to get better. Here's some individual numbers that have to get better defensively. Okay. On the pick and roll, we'll start with pick and roll defense, the number one play in the league. Pick and roll, you've got to get good at it. Walker Kessler's pick and roll defense last year was fine. It was 0.93. It was pretty good. That is out of the 89 players that I had qualify, so let's call it 90, just to make it easy. That ranks 24th in the league defensively out of the 90 big guys defending the pick and roll. Okay. Kyle Filipowski was a 1.03 in nearly 800 pick and rolls last year. That ranks 84th out of 89. Okay. Again, we were not great defensively. This is not an indictment. This is not who he is necessarily. I'm not stamping him as this, but when we talk about Kyle defensively needing to improve, this is what we're talking about. He was 84th out of 89 players in pick and roll defense. Okay, let's go to on-ball defense or on-the-ball pick and roll defense. So you are now guarding the ball. Keonte George was 1.02 in 794 pick and roll defenses. A lot. That ranks out of the 130 players that qualified in the numbers that I used. I think I did 500. That ranks 113th out of 130. It's got to improve. Isaiah Collier was 1.01. He ranked 107th out of 130. Cody Williams was actually quite good in just 300 attempts. And Bryce Sensabaugh was only in 250, was 1.1, which would pretty much be about the worst or second worst pick and roll defender in the NBA. He gets caught on picks badly. Okay. So those are some of the numbers right there. Defensively, they have to improve. I will give you the isolation defensive numbers next that have to improve, and then start asking your Ask LOJ questions like who will be the starting point guard of the Utah Jazz this year. It's all next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross, also located up in Logan. The Murdochs have been in Utah for 90, 100, whatever amount of years, with no regrets, making sure you have this wonderful experience. And the Chevy truck is Americana. There's nothing quite like the Chevy truck and how it's built. There's nothing quite like the Silverado as you sit up on top of the road, firing, feeling the strength and power that is Murdoch Chevy Silverado, feeling great there. Also, the Colorado is the zippier one. But the big game giveaway is going on right now where you get a large screen TV when you purchase a new car in October. So that's a lot of fun. That's for the whole month of October. Plus the Chevy Silverado, 2.9 APR right now for 72 months. So now is the time to get involved over at Murdoch Chevy. If you're heading over there, email me first at dlock09 and let me give you a VIP treatment that you deserve by being a Locked On every day. It's over at Murdoch Chevy. Today's show is also brought to you by Peloton, where I will be shortly today. It's 38 degrees outside. The riding outside. I'd like to ride this afternoon outside if I can, but we'll see. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton Cross-Training Thread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. Pretty cool. It's the most advanced equipment yet. It's designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. It's training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. This system gives you real-time strength coaching, as well as tracks your reps, suggests right weights, corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. The swivel screen is the key there. It's the game changer. You can go from running on the tread to working out, all by swiveling the screen and never missing a boat. So let's get yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Thread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's onepeloton.com. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Blowing records right and left every day. It's been amazing. This month's going to be incredible. We're going to hit some numbers I think we've never hit before. So thank you so much for following. All right, isolation defensive numbers. We discussed the team numbers. We had some of the isolation numbers. Keonte George, this is out of 190. I took the number down to 190 players. So 450 players. There's 300 that play. This is really and some just never get put in isolation. So this is pretty much any player that was in any isolation much defensively last year. Isolation, Keonte was in 198 isolations defensively last year. His defensive number is a 1.08. That ranks 168. Excuse me. This is not Keonte. My fault. The K got me. Okay, let's back up. Keonte, 138 defensive isolations last year. 0.95 defensively, right in the middle of the pack. 87th out of 190. So athletically, long, pretty good. Those are his isolation numbers. Walker Kessler was in 177 isolations. Remember, he had a pretty good year in isolation last year. We kind of let it happen to him all the time, and he bucked up. He was 38th out of 190. So super good. Great growth last year by Walker in that area. Here are 4 players that have to get better. Kyle Filipowski, 198 isolations. Teams just went after him every time he was on the floor last year. And if he's going to be a switching big, this is what he's going to have to do. He's a rookie. We're not stamping him. Let's be clear here. This is what he was last year. This is what has to improve. This is not who he is. It's hard as a rookie. Okay. I just want to be clear. We're not just saying, but this is when you say he's got to improve defensively. This is what the benchmark is going to be that we're going to look back at. In 198 possessions last year, his defense allowed 1.08 points per possession. That ranks 168th out of 190 guys defensively. Okay. So Filipowski was 168th out of 190. Lowry, in 129 defensive performances, isolation was worse. He was 1.1, which makes him 171st out of 190 isolation defenders in the NBA. This gets hard, by the way, for if you're the Jazz here. If Yusuf Nurkic is going to play the backup 5, and Kyle Filipowski is going to play some 4, and the open starting 4 might be open right now, and Kyle might start, and Kyle ranks 168th out of 190 in isolation, and Lowry ranks 171st out of 190 in isolation, and on pick and roll defense. So now you're switching, because if you have those guys, this gets really, and Walker, Lowry, and Kyle is long, but not the most athletic group you've ever seen. Isaiah Collier did not qualify for enough possessions. I think I did 125. Was at 125, but his points per isolation was 1.27. Of players who had at least 100, which was more, he's the second worst in the NBA. Got to improve. I think of Isaiah Collier, he needs to become an elite defensive pain in the ass. He needs to come into the game, guard at 94 feet, pressure. Someone has to be like, oh, crap, I got Collier. Well, they're not saying that if Isaiah Collier ranks 100, the second worst defensive player in 105. Cody Williams in 98, if Collier had a 1.27, Cody Williams had a 1.25 points per possession. By the way, half-court offense in the NBA, just to put this in perspective, to try to make, I think the ranking gives you an idea of what we're talking about. But if I quickly look up, and oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that. I just logged out, so this might not happen as fast as I'd hoped. The half-court possession in the NBA is right around a point of possession. That's probably a little low as it gets better and better and better. But that, when you take the average offense in the NBA is now about 1.15, and the half court possession is about 1 point of possession. It's actually a little lower last year. It's 0.98. So if you consider the fact that point per possession is 0.98, and if you go get Isaiah Collier in an isolation, you're getting 1.27, and you're getting Cody Williams at 1.25, and you're getting Lowry Markkanen at 1.1 and Kyle Filipowski at 1.08, and league average is 9.98. You can go get any of our guys in isolation. That's a pretty darn good deal for you if you're the other team. Same thing, Filipowski's pick and roll defense was 1.03, again, 0.98. Keontae's pick and roll defense was 1.02. Isaiah Collier's was 1.01. You're above league average every single time in half court. We were 30th in league defensively. These are not shocking. But these are the numbers that have to improve. Again, this is not an indictment on these guys. This is what happened last year. They weren't good. It wasn't a great environment. Okay. We left them out to die a little bit. We left them to try to learn. Now you coach them. And you probably change up schemes and do all sorts of things to try to deal with it. All right, let's get to some of the Ask LOJ questions. Who will be the starting point guard of your Utah Jazz? I mean, this has been kind of our ongoing interview question, but it's interesting. There's obviously Isaiah Collier is the incumbent. I think that's irrelevant. I really do. I don't think anything that happened last year is earning anyone minutes this year, other than maybe Walker and Lowry. The second thing is I thought Thurl Bailey made a great point on one of our shows that you need to have someone who's a ball distributor and who can move it and get Lowry involved if you're going to have Lowry. The third thing, I thought Bowler made a great point that Ace Bailey may play the 2. And the more and more I hear people talking, I do think there's a real chance Ace Bailey's playing the 2. Ace Bailey, I think, is going to play a lot for the top, which is basically playing the 2. So if Ace Bailey's you're starting 2, and Lowry's you're starting 3 or 4, and it's not clear who you're starting 3 or 4 is. Is it Filipowski? Is it Hendricks? Is it Williams? Is it Sensabaugh? It's really not. Is it Kyle Anderson? Is it George Niang if he's healthy? And Walker's you're starting 5. Maybe maybe it is truly between Keonte, Collier, and Clayton. And unless one of those wows everyone at a crazy level, my guess is it's Keonte. I don't quite have this figured out. I feel like there's 4 starters I know right now. I feel like Keonte is going to start. He just had such a good summer. I think Ace is going to start. He's just that important. Walker's going to start and Lowry's going to start. And I got no idea. We'll find out on Wednesday. I mean, really have no idea. Out of the 3 young point guards, who do you think has a higher ceiling if they can fix their main glares? Their main glares? Glaring weaknesses, I think is probably what you're saying. So I'm assuming this is Keonte, Isaiah, and Walt. Which of the 3 has the... I think Walt I think Keonte has the highest ceiling of 3 because his body's the best. I just will always go there every single time on every answer to every question. So Keonte's, and the key skill is this off the bounce 3, I think, in the NBA is you've got to be able to play with the off the bounce 3. That changes who you are offensively. It just makes defenses do a lot of different things. Keonte has shown that. I think Walt probably has the best chance to make that a lot. Walt can really shoot it. And Walt's not bashful. I think Walt's going to open up in the NBA game and really come here to let it fly. So when you consider that, the highest ceiling I would probably say is still Keonte because of his body, and Walt second just because of shooting. Keonte can play 2 different positions, so it gives him multiple routes. Clayton and Collier both, I know that Isaiah's listed 6'5". I just don't believe it. Really, I think have to be point guards defensively as much as anything else. And so I think that limits a little bit of their route. If they can fix their glaring weaknesses, in the case of both Keonte and Isaiah, it's defensively, and then Isaiah's got the added one if he's got to be able to shoot a little better. Isaiah shared a story with me that he had a injury in his finger in college, and he had a pin in it, and the pin came loose last year, and so his inside finger couldn't bend, and therefore, and he had it removed in the offseason, so he thinks his shooting is going to be much better this year. So that would be terrific if that's the case. What would it take for Walt Clayton to be your starting point guard, and who's the most important player on the Jazz? Next on Locked on Jazz. Today's edition of Locked on Jazz is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Have you gotten into the action with the football season here and all the fun and excitement? The NFL season is here, and FanDuel does not want you to miss out. Right now, customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel. All sorts of fun and excitement and getting into the action while it's going on. It makes football even more fun to watch, even the baseball playoffs as well, or the WNBA finals. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com right now and get your chance to get $300 in bonus bets. The Taylor Swifts are a 3.5-point favorite over the Jacksonville Jaguars tonight in Monday Night Football. Major League Baseball games going on today for you. The 2 games, the Dodgers and the Phillies, play at 4 o'clock hour time, and the Cubs and the Brewers are at 7 o'clock hour time. Favorite of the Dodgers and the Brewers as expected on that one. WNBA Finals gets back into action Wednesday. Phoenix will be a favorite at home, 3.5 points. That one's interesting to me. College football coming up this next week. Jump aboard. That always is the best way to get your $5 bet taken care of. It's all at FanDuel.com. Thanks very much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. Free and available on all podcasting apps. let's continue with your great questions today. What would it take for Walt to start on opening night? I just think he has to have a good camp. Like, I don't think it's any more complicated than that. He's the oldest of all of them, so it's not as though he's vastly inexperienced. He's got to be able to handle the job defensively, but so does Isaiah and Keonte. But I think, I think there's 4 starters set, as I said, and that 5th one could come anywhere and might be different all 4 preseason games. Like maybe it's Walt one day and Keonte rolls to the 2, and then Ace rolls to the 3, and Lowry rolls to the 4. And Walker plays the 5. Maybe it's Filipowski one day and we switch it the other way. Maybe it's Sensabaugh one day and Ace plays the 2 and Bryce plays the 3. I don't know. Maybe it's Cody if he has a great camp. I think whoever has a great camp is the answer to this. That's the beauty of what's going on here. I also think there's a chance it's Kyle Anderson because he makes everybody play right. I think there was a chance it was George Niang before he got hurt because he plays right. There's just a value to having guys on the floor who play right. Who's the most important player for the Jazz this season? Just don't think there's any doubt. We have to be really careful to not put undue pressure on him. But I don't think there's any doubt that it's Ace Bailey each and every day. You know, if Ace Bailey shows signs, our timetable increases. And if Ace Bailey shows no signs, our timetable backs up. Like, it's that simple. We could do it. Be great if Taylor's really good, but also I think you have to be a little realistic on how good Taylor possibly could be. 1, how good was he beforehand? And 2, what can you possibly expect coming off that tragic injury? I think you have to ask you, like, on Keonte pops and it all comes together with all this hard work, like, okay, that would be really nice. But there's just still no question to me that Ace Bailey is the most important player every night of the year. We just have to make sure we don't go crazy and that he doesn't get overwhelmed by it and lose his zest and joy for it all. How are the vibes and attitudes surrounding this team compared to prior years? I think this is a really interesting thing that's taking place right now, which is there is a real vibe and energy amongst these young guys. By clearing out Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, and John Collins, there's oxygen in the room for these players, for Keonte to lead, for Bryce Sensabaugh to have his impact, for Cody Williams to feel comfortable. This is not a criticism of those guys in any way, shape, or form, but it's who they are. Collins just a massive, and John Collins particularly. The 2 of them are just huge energy people that are important because they keep you up and they keep you positive and they're there, but they also don't allow any other oxygen in the room. Jordan does it by just being cool. Jordan's not obviously like the one who's going to be sitting there making a bunch of, like, he's not a big personality other than the fact he's the coolest cat in the room. And so you're kind of watching to see what he says is okay and what's not okay. That has opened the door for a different energy. And so while I don't think there's expectations they're going to win a lot. I do think there's expectations that they can play, they can have an impact, they can try to win, and they can grow together. And I think it's got a very different feel. I'm very excited to watch it. I think you'll see when there are wins and there are good moments, I think you're going to see a really big collective excitement for each other. A little bit of this also stems to Taylor. Taylor has a wonderful personality, and they've all watched Taylor go through this fight, and I think they all feel connected to Taylor. So when you watch, if Taylor has good moments, I think you'll really see it. But I think you'll see a lot more collective energy amongst the group this year, as you would. Where would you rank Flip as a switching 5? Can't he just do that for 18 minutes a game? Isn't that more of a playoff style anyway than a drop big? Said lots of questions here. Really good. Well, we opened the show talking about defensive numbers that have to change. So Flip in isolation last year, 1.08 points in 198 isolations, ranked 168th out of 190. Okay, so not very good. And as a drop big, he ranked 84th out of 89. Not very good. So he's going to have to figure out how he's on the floor defensively. Truthfully, Flip's offense is probably good enough right now and continues to be that he can be on the floor for 18 minutes a game. Flip's offensive isolation numbers are great. Oh no, they're not. Take that back. They were 0.75. They were terrible. Where was I found a number that was really good. Oh, his pick and roll as a big was decent with Keonte last year. 0.98 was actually the best of anyone with Keonte last year. So I actually think Flip's offense is probably good enough to get him 18 minutes a night. Like, is he Kelly Olynyk? Sure, because Kelly Olynyk really still can't defend at all. And so then what happens when Kelly Olynyk gets the playoffs is his minutes drop from 20 down to 13. I have aspirations for Flip to be more than Kelly Olynyk. I'm done with that comp. I'm trying to figure out who his next comp is. And how can he do that? Can he be Michael Porter Jr., like really, 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 really good offensive player and a bad defensive player? Can he be Nikola Vucevic, who's bigger and stronger and has a longer reach? I mean, I thought there was an interesting post that someone had out there the other night, which was all the Jazz players with 7-foot wingspan. It didn't include Kyle Filipowski, which I thought was like, oh, wow, like Ace Bailey's in there, Cody Williams is in there, Walker's in there, Lowry's in there, like, but no Filipowski. So I think he can play 15 minutes a night just because he's so good offensively the way Kelly Olynyk is, and particularly if he makes his shots. I'm trying to figure out how he can be 25 to 30 minute a night player, and that's going to be how whether he can find a way to viably be good defensively. That is Locked On Jazz today. We're going to kind of do it that style all week long. I appreciate your guys' thoughts, your questions, things of that nature. We'll jump on it. We get on a plane tomorrow to Houston. Wednesday, we play a game. Oh, my gosh, it's finally here. I can't wait. It is Locked On Jazz. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for making us the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you so much for listening to this insanity every day. It is Locked On Jazz. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA on YouTube. Plus, check out Locked On NBA each and every day with Wes, Matt, and Hayes.